You know, there comes a moment in every person's life when you realize that all the striving, all the pushing, all the forcing you've been doing isn't really getting you where you want to go. You're exhausted. You're tired of trying to control everything. You're worn out from attempting to manipulate outcomes, from worrying about what might happen, from lying awake at night wondering if you've made the right decisions. And in that moment of quiet desperation, something whispers to you. Something says, there's another way, let me lead you. Now, I'm not talking about giving up. I'm not suggesting that you become passive or lazy or that you stop taking action in your life. What I'm talking about is something far more powerful, far more transformative than anything you could accomplish through sheer willpower alone. I'm talking about aligning yourself with the source of all creation, with the infinite intelligence that created the stars, that makes your heart beat without you thinking about it, that grows a baby from 2 cells into a complete human being. This force, this energy, this divine intelligence, call it what you will, is available to you right now, in this very moment. Most of us spend our lives operating from our ego. The ego is that part of us that believes we are separate from everything else. It's the voice in your head that says, I have to do this alone, I have to figure it out, I have to make it happen. If I don't push, nothing will move forward. The ego is terrified of letting go because letting go feels like death to the ego. But here's what the ego doesn't understand. When you let go and allow the divine to lead you, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. You find your true self, the self that was there before you were taught to be afraid, before you learned that life was a struggle, before you believed that you had to fight for everything you wanted. Think about the times in your life when things flowed effortlessly. Maybe it was a conversation where the perfect words came to you without thinking. Maybe it was a solution to a problem that appeared out of nowhere. Maybe it was meeting someone at exactly the right time, in exactly the right place. These weren't coincidences. These were moments when you were in alignment with something greater than yourself. These were moments when you allowed yourself to be led rather than insisting on leading. The universe is constantly trying to guide you toward your highest good. It's sending you signals, opening doors, arranging circumstances, but most of the time, we're too busy with our own plans to notice. We're so convinced that we know what's best for us that we miss the gentle nudges, the synchronicities, the opportunities that are presenting themselves. We're like someone drowning who refuses the life preserver because they're certain they can swim to shore on their own. Letting God lead you doesn't mean you sit on your couch and wait for miracles to happen. It means you take inspired action rather than desperate action. There's a huge difference. Desperate action comes from fear. It comes from the belief that if you don't force something to happen, it won't happen. Inspired action comes from a place of trust. It comes from listening to that quiet voice within you that says, take this step, make this call, go to this place, and then you act. But you act from a place of peace rather than anxiety. I've watched people spend decades trying to force their lives into a shape that makes sense to their ego. They stay in jobs they hate because they're afraid of what might happen if they leave. They remain in relationships that drain them because they're terrified of being alone. They pursue goals that don't actually matter to them because society told them these goals were important. And all the while, the divine is whispering, I have something better for you. Trust me. Follow me. Let me show you the way. But we don't listen. We don't trust. We grip tighter to what we have, even when what we have is making us miserable. We'd rather have the certainty of our current suffering than the uncertainty of stepping into the unknown. And yet, the unknown is where all the magic happens. The unknown is where transformation occurs. The unknown is where God is waiting to lead you into a life beyond anything you could plan for yourself. You see, your ego can only create within the limitations of what it already knows. It can only use the information it has collected from your past experiences. But the divine has access to infinite possibilities, infinite resources, infinite wisdom. When you allow yourself to be led by this higher power, you open yourself up to solutions you never would have thought of, opportunities you never would have seen, and connections you never would have made on your own. I want to tell you something that might challenge everything you've been taught. You are not in control, and you never were. That job you think you got through your own effort alone, there were 1,000 factors that had to align for you to be in the right place at the right time. That relationship you cherish, the odds of you meeting that person, given all the possible paths your lives could have taken, are astronomical. The fact that you're alive right now, breathing, existing, is itself a miracle that required billions of years of precise universal orchestration. So if you're not in control anyway, why not surrender to the one who is? Why not trust the intelligence that has been guiding you all along, whether you acknowledged it or not? Why not stop exhausting yourself trying to manage every detail and instead say, show me the way, lead me, I'm willing to follow. Now, when I talk about letting God lead you, I'm not suggesting that you abandon your desires or your dreams. Your desires are actually divine guidance in disguise. The things you truly long for, the things that make your heart sing, these aren't random. They're seeds planted in you by the Creator. They're meant to pull you forward, to call you into your highest expression. The problem isn't having desires. The problem is being attached to exactly how those desires must manifest and on what timeline. Let me explain this more clearly. Say you desire a loving relationship. That's a beautiful desire, and it's absolutely something you can co-create with the divine. But when you get attached to the specific person, the specific timeline, the specific way it all has to unfold, you cut yourself off from the infinite ways the universe could deliver that love to you. You might be so focused on making things work with one person that you miss the person who would actually be perfect for you. You might be so insistent that love must come to you by a certain age that you close yourself off to the possibility of finding an even more beautiful love later in your life. The same is true for any goal or dream. Hold the intention, feel the desire, but then release your grip on exactly how it has to happen. Say to the universe, this is what I want, or something better. Show me the way. Lead me to it in the perfect timing. And then pay attention. Watch for the signs. Listen for the guidance. And when you feel that inner prompting to take action, take it, even if it doesn't make logical sense to your ego. Some of the most successful people in history have attributed their achievements not to their own brilliance, but to following a force greater than themselves. They talk about being in the flow, about things falling into place, about feeling guided. These aren't weak people. These aren't people who lacked ambition or drive. They were simply wise enough to understand that partnering with the divine is infinitely more powerful than going it alone. Think about the stress you carry right now. How much of it comes from trying to control things that aren't yours to control? How much of it comes from believing that everything depends on you? How much of it comes from the fear that if you don't figure it all out, everything will fall apart? This is the burden of trying to be your own God, and it's a burden you were never meant to carry. When you truly let God lead you, a tremendous weight lifts. You still take action, you still show up, you still do your part, but you do it with a sense of ease, knowing that you're not alone in this, that you have a partner who sees the entire chessboard while you only see a few squares, who knows the end from the beginning, who is orchestrating circumstances on your behalf in ways you can't even comprehend. People often ask me, how do I know if it's God leading me or just my own ego? That's a great question, and here's how you can tell. When your ego is in charge, you feel anxious, rushed, and fearful. You feel like you have to force things. You feel like you're swimming upstream. When God is leading you, you feel peaceful, even when you're moving towards something challenging. You feel a sense of rightness, even when the path isn't clear. You feel energized rather than drained. Things may not always be easy, but they flow. Doors open. The right people appear. Resources show up just when you need them. Another way to tell the difference is this. The ego always wants credit. It wants to say, look what I did, look what I accomplished, look how smart I am. The divine doesn't need credit. When you're being led by something greater than yourself, you feel humble gratitude rather than pride. You find yourself saying, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe how perfectly this worked out. Thank you. Now, letting God lead you also means being willing to go where you're being led, even when it's not where you plan to go. This is where people often get stuck. They say they want divine guidance, but only if that guidance leads them exactly where they already decided they want to go. That's not surrender. That's negotiation. Real surrender means being willing to have your plans completely rearranged if that's what's best for you. I've seen this happen countless times. Someone is absolutely certain they need to move to a particular city, and they're trying to force it to happen. They're applying for jobs there, looking for apartments, making it their sole focus. But nothing is working. Doors keep closing. Obstacles keep appearing. They're frustrated and confused. Meanwhile, opportunities are opening up in a completely different city. But they're ignoring them because that's not the plan. That's not what they decided. What they don't realize is that the divine might have something far better waiting for them in that other city. Maybe the love of their life is there. Maybe the career opportunity that will change everything is there. Maybe they need to be there for reasons they won't understand until years later, but they'll never know if they're too rigid to follow where they're being led. Flexibility is essential when you're letting God lead you. You have to be willing to change course. You have to be willing to admit that maybe you don't know what's best. You have to be willing to trust that even when things don't make sense, there's a larger plan unfolding. This doesn't mean you never make plans. Plans are useful. They give you direction and help you take action. But hold your plans loosely. Be willing to adjust them. Be willing to abandon them entirely if something better comes along. Think of your plans as suggestions to the universe rather than demands. One of the most powerful things you can do is develop a daily practice of surrendering to divine guidance. Start your day by saying, I don't know what's best for me today. Show me, lead me, use me, speak through me. Let my actions be aligned with your will rather than my ego's agenda. And then throughout the day, keep checking in. Keep asking, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom? At first, this might feel strange. You might not hear anything. That's okay. Keep practicing. The more you quiet your ego and open yourself to guidance, the more clearly you'll hear it. It might come as a feeling, an intuition, a sudden knowing. It might come as a thought that feels different from your usual thinking, calmer, clearer, more certain. It might come through something someone says to you, a book that falls off a shelf, a song on the radio. The universe has infinite ways of communicating with you once you're paying attention. You also have to trust the timing. This is where people really struggle. We live in a culture that worships speed. We want everything now. We want instant results, instant gratification, instant transformation. But divine timing is different from our timing. The universe is never late and never early. Things happen at exactly the right moment, when all the pieces are in place, when you're truly ready, when the people who need to be involved are ready, when the circumstances are aligned. Waiting doesn't mean nothing is happening. When you plant a seed, there's a period where nothing appears to be happening above ground. But under the surface, roots are growing, the seed is germinating, energy is building, and then, at exactly the right moment, the sprout breaks through the soil. Your dreams are like that. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Just because things haven't manifested yet doesn't mean they're not on their way. The key is to use the waiting time wisely. Keep doing your inner work. Keep releasing fear and doubt. Keep raising your vibration. Keep showing up for whatever is in front of you right now. Keep being kind. Keep being loving. Keep being generous. Keep practicing presence. Keep choosing faith over fear. All of this is preparing you to receive what's coming. One of the biggest obstacles to letting God lead you is the belief that you don't deserve to be helped. You might think, why would God care about me? Why would the universe go out of its way for me? There are billions of people with bigger problems than mine. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the divine operates. You are not bothering God with your desires and dreams. You are not taking resources away from someone else. The universe is infinite. There's enough for everyone. And you, as a unique expression of the divine, matter just as much as anyone else. In fact, when you thrive, when you allow yourself to be led into your highest expression, you benefit everyone around you. You become a light for others. You inspire people. You create ripple effects of positive change. Your joy, your peace, your success, these things aren't selfish. They're gifts to the world. So stop shrinking. Stop playing small. Stop pretending that your dreams don't matter. They do matter. And you deserve every bit of support the universe wants to give you. Another thing that keeps people from surrendering to divine guidance is the fear of looking foolish. What if you follow your intuition and it leads you somewhere weird? What if you make a decision based on inner guidance and other people think you're crazy? What if you take a leap of faith and fall flat on your face? These are legitimate fears, but they're also traps. You cannot live an authentic, fulfilling life and also never risk looking foolish. It's impossible. Some of the best decisions you'll ever make will look crazy to other people. Some of the most important steps you'll take will be met with skepticism and criticism. That's okay. Other people don't have access to your inner guidance. They don't know what the divine is whispering to you. They're operating from their own fears and limitations. You can love them, you can appreciate their concern, but you don't have to let their opinions override your inner knowing. History is full of people who were called crazy, who were told they would fail, who were mocked and dismissed, and who changed the world. They changed the world precisely because they were willing to follow guidance that didn't make sense to anyone else. They trusted themselves. They trusted their connection to something greater. They were willing to look foolish in the eyes of others in order to be faithful to their truth. You have to decide what matters more to you, the approval of people who don't understand your path or the fulfillment of living the life you're meant to live. You can't have both. At some point, You have to choose. And I'm telling you, choose your truth. Choose your guidance. Choose the whisper of the divine over the shouting of the crowd. Let's talk about failure for a moment, because this is another fear that keeps people from surrendering to divine leadership. What if you follow God's guidance and things don't work out? What if you take that inspired action and it leads to a disaster? What if you trust the universe and end up disappointed? Here's the truth. What looks like failure from your limited perspective might be a crucial step in your larger journey. What seems like a wrong turn might be exactly where you needed to go to learn something essential. What feels like a disaster in the moment might be redirecting you towards something far better. When you're being led by the divine, there are no failures. There are only experiences, lessons, redirections, and growth. Every so-called mistake is actually information. Every closed door is protecting you from something that wasn't meant for you. Every disappointment is clearing space for something better. You can't see this in the moment, of course. In the moment, it hurts. In the moment, you question everything. But from the larger view, from the perspective of your soul's growth and evolution, everything is perfect. I'm not saying that following divine guidance means everything will always be easy or comfortable. Growth often isn't comfortable. Transformation often requires you to outgrow things, release things, let things die so new things can be born. The caterpillar doesn't enjoy being in the cocoon. It's dark in there. It's confusing. Everything it knew is dissolving. But that dissolution is necessary for the butterfly to emerge. If someone cut open the cocoon to help the caterpillar, the butterfly would never develop the strength it needs to fly. So when you're in a difficult phase, even though you're following your guidance, trust that there's a purpose. Trust that you're being strengthened, refined, prepared for what's next. Trust that the struggle is temporary and that something beautiful is being born through it. Keep saying yes to the process, even when it's hard, even when you don't understand it, even when you want to quit. Letting God lead you also means being willing to serve something larger than yourself. When you're operating purely from ego, everything is about you. Your comfort, your success, your pleasure, your security. But when you allow yourself to be guided by the divine, you start to see that your life has a purpose beyond your personal gratification. You're here to contribute something. You're here to help in some way. You're here to be a vessel for love, for healing, for truth, for beauty, for whatever unique gift you were born to bring to this world. This doesn't mean you have to be a saint or a martyr. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your own well-being for others. True service isn't about depleting yourself. It's about allowing the infinite to flow through you. And when you're connected to the infinite, you never run dry. You give, but you're simultaneously being filled. You serve, but you're simultaneously being nourished. It's a completely different experience from the exhausting, ego-driven helping that leaves you resentful and burned out. When you ask the divine, how can I serve? How can I be useful? What would you have me do today? You're opening yourself up to opportunities that will fulfill you in ways that purely selfish pursuits never could. You might be guided to smile at a stranger who desperately needed to feel seen. You might be prompted to call a friend who was on the verge of making a terrible decision. You might be inspired to write something, create something, or say something that changes someone's life. You'll never know the full impact of your willingness to be used for a higher purpose. But I promise you, it matters more than you can comprehend. Now, some people worry that if they let God lead them, they'll be asked to do things they don't want to do. They have this image of divine guidance as a cosmic killjoy, sending them off to do miserable tasks out of some sense of obligation. But this is a complete misunderstanding. The divine wants you to be joyful. Your joy is not in conflict with your purpose. It's an indication of it. The things that light you up, the activities that make you lose track of time, the work that doesn't feel like work, these are clues to your calling. God isn't going to lead you into a life of misery. That wouldn't serve anyone. The divine wants you to thrive, to flourish, to come alive. When you're aligned with your true path, you feel it. You feel energized. You feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. That doesn't mean every moment is blissful or every task is exciting, but there's an underlying sense of rightness, of meaning, of contribution that makes even the challenging parts worthwhile. So stop seeing surrender as a loss and start seeing it as a gain. You're not giving up your life. You're getting your real life, the one you were always meant to live. You're not losing control. You're gaining access to a wisdom and power that your ego could never access on its own. You're not becoming less. You're becoming more authentic, more peaceful, more aligned, more alive. The practice of letting God lead you is a daily choice, sometimes a moment-by-moment choice. Your ego will constantly try to retake control. It will tell you that you can't trust, that you have to figure everything out, that you're on your own. Every time you notice this happening, gently bring yourself back. Breathe. Relax your grip. Say, I'm willing to be led. I don't have to do this alone. Show me the way. Over and over again, you return to surrender. Over and over again, you choose trust over fear. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, your life begins to change. Things start to flow more easily. Synchronicities become more common. You find yourself in the right place at the right time more often. The people you need show up. The resources you need appear. Solutions present themselves. You start to feel held, supported, guided. You start to realize that you've never been alone, that you've always been loved, that there's an intelligence working on your behalf that's so much greater than anything you could manage with your limited human mind. This is what's available to you. This is the life that's waiting for you on the other side of your resistance, your fear, your need to control. All you have to do is let go. All you have to do is surrender. All you have to do is say yes to being led by something that loves you more than you can comprehend and that sees possibilities for you that you've never even dreamed of. Stop trying so hard. Stop pushing so much. Stop exhausting yourself with the burden of having to make everything happen through your own effort. You were never meant to do this alone. There's a force in this universe that's on your side, that wants you to succeed. That's conspiring for your highest good. All it asks is that you trust it, listen to it, follow it. When you wake up tomorrow morning, before you start planning and strategizing and worrying about everything you have to do, take a moment to connect. Close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and simply say, lead me today. Show me what you would have me do. I'm willing to follow. I'm willing to be led to my highest good and the highest good of all. And then go through your day paying attention, noticing the nudges, following the promptings, trusting the process. Some days it will feel easy and natural. Some days you'll struggle and forget and slip back into trying to control everything. That's okay. Be patient with yourself. This is a practice, not a perfection. Every time you remember, every time you surrender, every time you choose trust over fear, you're strengthening that connection. You're making it easier. You're training yourself to live in partnership with the divine rather than in opposition to it. And as you continue this practice, as you get better at surrendering, as you learn to recognize and follow divine guidance, you'll look back on your life and be amazed. You'll see the perfection in everything that's happened. You'll understand why certain things had to happen the way they did. You'll recognize how you were being led even in the moments when you felt most lost. You'll feel overwhelming gratitude for the wisdom that was guiding you all along, even when you didn't know it, even when you resisted it, even when you tried to go your own way. Your life is meant to be extraordinary. Not extraordinary in the sense of fame or fortune, though those might come. Extraordinary in the sense of being filled with meaning, purpose, love, joy, and contribution. Extraordinary in the sense of being exactly what your soul came here to experience and express. But you can't force your way to that life. You can't control your way to that life. You can only surrender your way to that life. So right now, in this moment, make that choice. Choose to trust. Choose to surrender. Choose to let yourself be led by the infinite intelligence that created you and that knows exactly what you need, exactly where you need to go, and exactly how to get you there. Choose to believe that you are loved beyond measure, supported beyond what you can see, and guided toward a future more beautiful than anything you could plan for yourself. Let God lead you, not because you're weak or incapable, but because you're wise enough to know that partnership with the divine is the most powerful way to live. Let God lead you, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. Let God lead you, and finally, experience the peace, the joy, and the fulfillment you've been searching for all along. This is your invitation. This is your opportunity. This is the moment when everything can change. Will you accept it? Will you open your hands and release your death grip on control? Will you say yes to being led into the life you were always meant to live? The choice is yours. And the divine is waiting with infinite patience and infinite love for you to finally, beautifully, courageously say yes.